I thought my wife was just getting in shape. But the muffled laughter behind locked doors told a different story. Those secret training sessions weren't about fitness. They were a calculated plan to dismantle our 10-year marriage. When the bruises appeared, I realized her physical transformation was actually a weaponized betrayal. This is my story. 10 years. When you've been with someone for 10 years, you think you know every version of them. The morning version, the angry version, the one who laughs too loudly at bad jokes. My wife, I'll call her Mara, I knew every version of her. Or at least, I thought I did. It started quietly, the way most disasters do. She'd been watching a fitness influencer on YouTube. Nothing unusual. Then a second one. Then a third. Within 2 months, she was talking about macros at dinner and researching coaches online at midnight. I remember thinking, good for her. This is a good thing. I told myself it was healthy. I told myself I was being supportive. I was actually being blind. When she hired the trainer, let's call him Marcus, she described him as a specialist. Not just a personal trainer, but a performance coach. Someone who worked with athletes. Someone serious. The rate was higher than I was comfortable with, but she had a job, she had her own money, and I wasn't about to stand in the way of someone's self-improvement. The first red flag I let slide? She installed a biometric lock on the home gym we'd built together in the basement. She said it was for focus. Marcus had instructed her to eliminate distractions. No phones, no interruptions, just her and the work. I helped her install that lock. I bought the hardware. I drilled the screws into the door frame myself. The second red flag was the silence. Not the silence of someone concentrating, the tactical silence of someone choosing not to share. I'd ask how the sessions were going. She'd say, great. I'd ask what they were working on. She'd say, you wouldn't understand the terminology. And she was right. I didn't. But I also didn't push. Because I was trying to be a supportive husband. The good guy. The one who doesn't make his wife's growth about himself. Looking back, that was my first mistake. 3 months in, I noticed the first physical marks. A bruise on her shoulder, she said, was from battle ropes. A red welt across her forearm. She blamed on a resistance band snapping. Small things. Explainable things. The kind of things you don't question when someone's working hard. Then came the night with the baby monitor. We didn't have children, but we kept the monitor from when my sister had stayed with us. It was still plugged in on the kitchen shelf, connected to the basement, because we used to use it to hear the washer cycle finish. I'd forgotten it was on. I was making dinner, and through the static, I heard laughing. Not the kind of laugh you make when someone tells a joke. The kind you make when you feel safe. The kind you make with someone you've let all the way in. I turned the volume up. I stood very still. They were talking. Low voices. The words weren't clear, but the energy was, it was intimate. Easy. The kind of comfort that takes months to build. I put down the spatula. I didn't go downstairs. I finished making dinner. I set the table for 2. And when she came up 45 minutes later, face flushed, I smiled and asked if she was hungry. She said yes. She ate quickly. She said the session had been intense. Around month 4, I noticed the bank statements. Small withdrawals at first, supplements, gear, and equipment she ordered online. Then the larger ones. Private consultation fees, programming packages, nutrition analysis, charges that didn't look like training charges, charges to an LLC I didn't recognize. When I asked, she'd have an answer ready. Always ready. Too ready. Like she'd rehearsed. Our joint savings had dropped by over $8,000 in 90 days. And the gym in our basement, the one with the biometric lock, had been fully outfitted with equipment I'd never seen her use before Marcus arrived. There's something deeply disorienting about watching someone become more powerful while they're pulling away from you. Mara was visibly stronger, leaner, more confident in the way she carried herself through a room. People at parties would compliment her. You look incredible. What are you doing? And she'd smile the smile I used to think was mine and say Marcus had changed her life. She said that in front of me, more than once. Marcus had changed her life. I started wondering, what was her life before? Was it me? Was I what she was changing it from? Arguments we used to navigate together about money, about plans, about the future, started to feel like negotiations I was losing. She stood differently now, held eye contact longer, answered faster. I'd raise a concern, and she'd dismantle it with a precision that felt rehearsed, trained. There were moments in conversations where I felt genuinely physically smaller. Meanwhile, on Instagram, she was ascending. Transformation posts, progress reels, motivational quotes in the captions, comment from strangers praising her discipline, her glow, her energy. Every few days, a new post. She was documenting everything. At the time, I thought it was just social media. Now I understand what she was actually building, a public narrative, a timeline, a record of her thriving that could be contrasted later against a record of me falling apart. I didn't know that yet. I just felt like a ghost in my own home. I want to be careful here because what I'm about to tell you isn't a guess. It's documented. It's verified. I have seen the records with my own eyes, and a legal team has reviewed them. I'm not speculating. I'm telling you what happened. I installed a camera in the basement. I'm not proud of it. I want to be transparent about that. It felt like a violation even as I did it. But I had $8,000 missing, a wife who spoke to me like a stranger, and a lock on a door in my own house. I made a choice. I pointed the lens at the corner of the room, behind the water heater, and I let it record. What I actually found, was not what I expected. There was no physical affair in the footage. Let me be clear about that. But what there was worse in some ways. There was Marcus sitting at a folding table with a laptop, going through documents with my wife. There was a notepad. There were printed pages. There were long conversations, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes more, that had nothing to do with fitness. He was not her trainer. He was her strategist. Through a contact I'd rather not detail, I was able to have certain financial records reviewed. Marcus was not just a personal trainer. He had a background in private investigation and asset management consulting. He knew how money moved, how accounts got structured, and, critically, how to document instability in a household in a way that would hold up in family court. The private consultation fees? They were payments for his time advising her on how to position herself for a divorce filing. The equipment purchases? Some of those charges were for document storage and legal consultation through shell accounts tied to his LLC. The social media archive? Her attorney would later confirm it had been preserved as time-stamped evidence of her independence and mental wellness during a period she intended to characterize as emotionally abusive. That period was our marriage, our life together, reframed, repackaged, weaponized. Every time I'd raise my voice during an argument, every time I'd push back on spending, every time I'd question her sessions, she'd been documenting it, sometimes on a phone I didn't know she had. And Marcus had helped her build the case. The divorce took 11 months. I won't walk you through every courtroom detail, but I'll tell you the shape of it. She was prepared. I was not. She had documentation. I had memories. She had an attorney she'd been consulting for 6 months before I even knew we were in trouble. I had 30 days to find representation after being served. I did not keep the house. I did not keep most of what we'd built financially. The legal costs alone consumed what was left of my savings. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment 30 minutes from the home I helped purchase. I drove past it once, about 3 months after the settlement. There was new landscaping in the front yard. The window boxes she'd always talked about putting in were finally there. She got the house she wanted. She just needed to finish removing me from it first. I spent a long time thinking about what I would tell someone in the early version of this story. Not the lawsuit stage, not the hidden camera stage. The very beginning, when it still felt like maybe I was just being insecure. When the red flags were small enough to rationalize. Here's what I'd say. Locked doors inside a shared home are not about focus. Privacy within a partnership is healthy. Secrecy is something different. Know the difference, and don't let someone gaslight you into confusing them. When someone starts documenting their own life obsessively and publicly during a period of private tension, pay attention to why. Sometimes people post for joy. Sometimes they're building a record. Follow the money early. Not because love is transactional, but because financial behavior is one of the most reliable indicators of someone's actual intentions. $8,000 doesn't disappear without a destination. And finally, manipulation doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like self-improvement. Sometimes it looks like someone is finally finding themselves. Sometimes it looks like you are the unsupportive one for noticing something is wrong. I lost a decade, a home, a person I loved, or a version of her I thought I knew. And the hardest part of the aftermath wasn't the legal battle or the financial loss. It was reconciling the fact that while I was trying to be the husband who didn't get in her way, she was quietly and methodically making sure I never would again. I'm rebuilding now, slowly, deliberately, the way you rebuild anything that was dismantled from the inside out, one honest piece at a time. If this story hit close to home, if you recognize something in it, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy for trusting your instincts. Drop a comment below. I read everyone. And if you're new here, I make videos about real life, real mistakes, and real recovery. Subscribe if that's the kind of thing you need right now. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.